I posted this clip the other day from the No Jumper podcast where I was talking about how black culture promotes a lot of negative behavior. And a lot of times black people will drag black people down way more than they ever blame white supremacy for. For example, when you start to make it up in the world, or you start to speak properly, or you start to dress more respectably, black people like use words like you're speaking white, or they'll bring you back down and say that you're a coon and all this stuff. Say that you're simping for white people when you try to make it out of the, and you kind of see that response in the quote tweets. Everybody is saying like, oh, you can't speak on black culture if you're not black, blah, blah, blah. Why is he talking about this? He doesn't know about jazz. It's like, okay, first off, no black person, like who goes to jazz concerts anymore? Who listens to jazz? Who are all the top black artists? They're all, promoting murder. Sexy Red is like saying my coochie pink, my booty hole brown, Cardi, all the major black artists are promoting degeneracy, which is something that we all know. But when you talk about it, they immediately try to silence you saying you're racist. So I kind of saw a good response there. And I think that's something worth talking about. And maybe even something you agree about. I was listening to a streamer before you saying that you could tell somebody is racist right away, but people will call me racist for that. And I saw a lot of people upset with me and calling me racist, but I'm just pointing out something that if I was blacker, they would probably nod their head and agree with. When Ye talks about it, they say it makes sense. But when I talk about it in a room with Adam 22, they immediately say like, oh, look, he follows Richard Spencer. He hangs out with Nick Fuentes. He's a white supremacist sympathizer, all this stuff.
Okay. When I say this, I'm not here to pass judgment one way or another, but when people have these conversations, there's just some things I would like them to be aware of, okay? For a long time, I would agree that to some extent, rap is degenerate, right? Especially when we talk about early gangster rap, especially when we talk about Sad Boy, Xanax rap, all these rappers that die of drug ODs and all this shit. Like, there is an element to, you can even say there's an element to black culture that's degenerate, okay? That's probably true, right?
There you go.
Right.
We agree on that.
Sure. Wait. Okay, yeah, but here's the issue, and this is what I wish when people have these conversations, these are things they need to keep in mind, okay? One, the entertainment that you create is a reflection of the culture that you're in, right? It wouldn't make, like, there is no Ashkenazi Jew that makes a song called, like, police. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you feel that way about the police if you're just, right? Well, unless you're talking about the Gestapo, right? So that's one thing. Keep in mind that the art and the media that you create, it's going to be a reflection of the environment that you're in. Now, if we look at the history of African Americans in the United States, the environment that they've been in for a long time has been, on one level, legally and institutionally, right? Or at the very legally, right? They were slaves. Okay. Past that, it was institutionally, Jim Crow, redlining.
I understand that.
Right? Yeah.
But then why is it that whenever a rapper starts to get out of that, even years after
hold on, real quick. I'll let you answer or ask her. I just want to explain this real quick, okay? Right? That for all these times, black people's culture in the United States, because of things that have been outside of their control, they've been relegated to really shit environments. And as a result of that, the media they've made has been some kind of reflection of that. Then there's also this kind of uncomfortable thing where we were very critical of black media is garbage. Black media is horrible. It's bringing down the black community. But then there's this uncomfortable trend of like, black people will create something that's disgusting. The blues and jazz, these bastardizations of European music, and then eventually white people are like, it was gross, we shouldn't for it, but actually it's kind of cool. We're gonna take it, right? Blues, jazz came a lot of it from black players' infusion of their culture into European style music. They made something new and creative. We thought it was horrible, and then Elvis Presley comes out and does rock and roll. It's awesome. You go to jazz institutions today, it's all white people playing. It's awesome, right? And then something similar is kind of happening with rap. Rap is gross, rap is disgusting, but if you go to any rap concert, 90% of the audience are white people. So while we're simultaneously criticizing the culture and saying it's disgusting, we're the main consumers of it. When I say we, I mean we as white people. So I'm just saying that collectively, when you take all of that account, I can see black people looking and be like, okay, you. You're saying that our media is crap and we're ourselves. That might be true to some extent, but it doesn't keep you from consuming it. You love buying it. You're our main consumers. And eventually you come by and you steal it and you don't have any of those same criticism because there's not the same expectation for you as a white person to uplift your culture. Whereas every single rap artist that becomes famous is expected to be some representative, some Malcolm X, some MLK that's supposed to uplift all those people when they might just want to make media that reflects their environment and they just want to make money like any white person would. But there's a whole new set of,
I'm not arguing that. Of course, we all know that white kids love to consume the stuff.
Sure, yeah. Just
the aesthetic is, the aesthetic is sexy. There's murder, all this stuff, the twerking, all that stuff. Like, obviously that's attractive. That's why they keep making it. But the bigger argument is why, even when they're out of that lifestyle, like, yes, okay, some systematic oppression, they're from the hood, all this stuff, redlining, blah, blah, blah. We're victims, we're victims, we're victims. That's always the main black mentality in America, is that we're always victimized and white supremacy is holding us back. But how come when they start to elevate, when they start to get out of that, even years after they've been out of the gang lifestyle, that's all they know how to continue rapping about. That's all they know how to, even when they have nothing to do with it for years and years and years, the whole aesthetic, all of it is, they even will stay in the gang mentality. They'll be around that just so that they could keep that aesthetic going.
Because
they'll purposely surround themselves with that aesthetic and ideology and that lifestyle to sell more music. They won't live that whatsoever. They'll be at nice dinners. They'll be traveling the world. They'll be in private jets, and they're still talking about gangbang and GDK, GDBD, all this stuff.
Because your upbringing and how you get success is largely going to shape a lot of your life. You make money doing it, people want to hear it, and it's something that you carry with you forever, right? This is part of the criticism. I don't want to get like too much into other stuff because I don't want to disagree too much, but like a lot of the things that red pillars say about how they move through relationships actually makes a lot of sense if you look at it through a poor lifestyle. When you talk about, like, for instance, a lot of red pillars, when you guys talk about how you manage relationships, when you say the man leads, one of the reasons why that you guys always give about men leading is if you get into a fight, if somebody breaks into your house, this is poor ghetto mentality, right? No middle class person is thinking like, I need to lead my woman for when I have to fight for her life, because middle class and wealthy people don't think that way. But even these red pillars that make like millions of dollars, when was the last time Myron got like jumped with a dude in a gun trying to kill him and his girlfriend, right?
Actually, that's not true. Recently they were at the restaurant after a show, and he had to protect everybody because he's always carrying a gun. And he said, like, everybody get behind me, because there was a fight that went on in the middle of the restaurant. So even when you start making money, there's always a risk. There's always a possibility.
No. Come on.
Well, yes,
it might happen every now. First of all, was this a random dude or was this like a fan or whatever, right? Like, and actually,
it was a random altercation at the restaurant. But when it does get down to that, it's always the man that has to protect. He's the one carrying the gun. He's the one who's the most
what you're
physically
saying.
capable.
I understand what you're saying right now. This is broken mentality. This is ghetto mentality. Nobody in like the wealthy world thinks this way. You call the cops or you just leave. Nobody's thinking about like how do I need to move in case of a fight? Like nobody's building their life around these interactions.
Well, no, you're equating it to that he needs to get in a fight. He's the one carrying the gun. He's the one who's going to be most capable with a weapon in that scenario. He's going to be better at it than a woman in all scenarios.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying this is like 0.1% of what you're thinking about. But when you listen to red pillars, it's like 85% of like how the world is built is around surviving fights. Like, it's just most people just don't think about that, right? You spent some time in Miami Beach. You've been in LA. Like, even in LA, like most places, this shit is not happening. I lived in LA for 3-4 years. I've been to a ton of different restaurants. I've been in weird places in Hollywood, homeless people. Like, I've been down in Miami Beach now. I go all over Brickell, Miami Beach. Like, it's just not something I think about. It's not. Not
ultimately, but the bigger point of it, it's not just about the fact that it's happening all the time, but it's just having that mentality will lead a better relationship. That's
sure. I'm just saying that. Sure. All I'm trying to illustrate here is that like that is something that comes from a certain type of background, and it's carried through. Like Myron, and maybe I guess even you, I don't even know, are going to carry this mentality with you for 10, 20, 30 years. But what I'm telling you is that other wealthy people are going to look at you like you're crazy. That'll never change. When you start saying things like, oh yeah, like if you're at a table talking to some wealthy folks that come from wealthy families, and you're like, I need to lead in the relationship. They're like, oh, well, why is that, Sneako? And I was like, what if somebody breaks in here and a fight breaks out? Like everybody's going to look at you like you're crazy. That's
not the reason that I'm going to give in that scenario. It's because my woman is going to feel more safe and secure, and she's going to be able to be in her feminine more if I'm the one protecting and leading and I'm the masculine one. And there's a lot, that's just the most physical and the best example of it, like when a fight breaks out, but that's obviously not going to happen that much. The relationship's better when the masculine man is leading and the woman can be feminine. A woman can't properly be feminine if she's not in a safe environment and she doesn't feel secure. That's ultimately the reason for it.
Okay. That was just one example, but what else do you want to talk about?